Leg of the old-fashioned way, as in an old-fashioned. Others preferred straight, but everyone there loves bourbon. Every year, the state of Virginia holds a lottery to decide who will get to buy one of a few incredibly rare bottles of whiskey at retail price. But when this year's results started to trickle out last month, bourbon aficionados noticed irregularities. And after some digging, the state has admitted the lottery was flawed. Gus Giemond is a member of the D.C., Maryland, and Virginia Bourbon Drinkers Club on Facebook. We reached him in Chantilly, Virginia.
Gus, what tipped you off? When did you start to suspect something was off in this year's whiskey lottery?
So what first tipped me off is I'm a member of an online kind of like bourbon enthusiasm group on Facebook. And so every time the lotteries come around, we're all kind of excited and jazzed that we're going to have the chance to purchase these rare bottles. And then some members of our group posted that, oh, I won 2 times. And at first we're like, that's fantastic. Congratulations. You really lucked out. And then someone else said, oh, I won 2 times as well. And then someone said, I won 3 times. And then, we've been following the lotteries for years. And so we're like, this can't happen just based off the number of bottles and the number of people that enter, that something was afoot.
I want to get into what you did with those suspicions and what you found out in just a second. But first, tell us about these bottles and what makes them so special.
Yeah, of course. So the bottles specifically for this most recent lottery, they're part of it's called the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. So Buffalo Trace is a bourbon manufacturer. It's owned by Sazerac, and they create a wide line of different whiskeys, but specifically their Buffalo Trace Antique Collection is kind of the pinnacle and most sought after of the offerings they have. There's very limited bottles. They have very old age statements. Some of them are in a barrel for 18 years. And so there's very few of them, and they're very sought after by the collector community.
Do the collectors drink what's inside those bottles? And what does it taste like?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on the individual person. For me personally, I like to collect them. And then if there's a special occasion and I have good friends and family over, we can open up one of the bottles and kind of share, talk about the experience of getting it, and just kind of have a fun time. Whereas some other people, they just like to collect and kind of have a library where we call them dusties, where they just kind of sit up on the shelf and are just up there to look at, I guess.
And what does it taste like?
So they all kind of taste different. Typically, a lot of them, they have a really nice kind of like caramelly, rich flavor. And sometimes you get hints of smoke. It all kind of depends on which of the offerings you're actually tasting. But they're very unique, especially since some of them are aged for so long. You really get a lot of the oakiness and that barrel flavor coming through.
You mentioned you had your suspicions. So you and another member of this group actually filed something that reporters file often, an access to information request. Where did that lead you?
Correct, yes. So we filed it because we wanted to see what was going on, especially because we had reached out to the ABC through their email, through contact, and didn't really hear anything back. Once we did submit the request, we kind of discovered what their process is to actually determine who the winners are. So typically in a lottery, you think everybody kind of has a number. They pick a number out of a hat. They win. In this particular case, the Virginia ABC, which it's a $2 billion a year enterprise, you'd think they'd have a grasp on it, but they didn't. They use an Excel spreadsheet, so everyone enters online and kind of enters for each individual bottle they would like. And then they have this 30-step process where they go through, manipulate the data, try to delete duplicates, sort it, and then somehow pick the winners. However, it's a completely human-driven process. There's someone actually sitting there at a computer in front of an Excel spreadsheet doing this.
So it's not at random.
It's not that random. We assume that at some point during their step where they delete duplicates or sort, that someone made a mistake somewhere.
The state has said the results were, quote, statistically abnormal. What do you make of that characterization, that response?
I would say they're statistically impossible. Because we ran the math. So 2 people won 4 bottles. There were 4 offerings, so they won everything. The chances for 1 person to win all 4 bottles is 1 in a billion. The chances for 2 people to win all 4, you just start tacking zeros on. And then 50 people won 3 bottles. And then I believe 249 people won 2 bottles. And it was just completely beyond the pale. It wasn't all the stars lined up and this happened. I mean, there was a mistake. There was an error or something.
So are they going to hold another lottery? Is there any recourse for aficionados such as yourself?
There is no recourse at all. Virginia ABC said that they decided to honor the results of this lottery. So people have already started receiving the bottles. And I mean, I have no ill will towards the people that won. Mm-hmm. My biggest thing is I would have liked to have actually the fair chance to actually win, not just enter and because the data's handled incorrectly or whatever. I don't even have a chance.
You're deep into this, not just the research on what happened this time, but in the past, you've actually camped out overnight to get your hands on one of these bottles. Have you soured on the whole process?
I haven't soured on the process because, I mean, it still is a collection, and I mean, it's not something that you do overnight. However, I mean, it did frustrate me that something I am so passionate about and tens of other thousands of citizens in the Commonwealth are passionate about, essentially our government couldn't handle something as simple as a lottery.
You have faith the state is going to make some changes for next year?
I'm hoping that they make changes. I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I kind of have reached out to different places and people. It's so some sort of change can happen. So everyone in the Commonwealth has an equal chance.
Are you hoping those who did win those multiple bottles will share?
Oh, I mean, I'm always welcome to someone sharing some bourbon with me.
What do you love so much about it? It's a whole vibe, right?
Oh, yeah, it's a whole vibe. It's a whole community. For me particularly, my family, we've always kind of enjoyed it and bonded over it. And it's a uniquely American spirit. So, I mean, with a lot of other spirits, I mean, Scotch is obviously from Scotland. You have Canadian whiskey, you have brandy and cognac and stuff that are kind of from different regions. And bourbon itself is a kind of uniquely American product.
Gus, thank you for your time. Good luck next year.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Gus Giemond is a member of the D.C., Maryland, and Virginia Bourbon Drinkers Club on Facebook. We reached him in Chantilly, Virginia.